Open Book with Susan Baier, the show where we talk to local leaders and learn more about the people behind the titles. I'm your host, Susan Baier, the Executive Director of the Allen County Public Library. We're here in Studio B in Access Fort Wayne at our main library in beautiful downtown Fort Wayne. I'm so excited to chat with our guest today. She's the Chief Executive Officer of Amani Family Services. Please help me welcome to Open Book, Ewelina Connolly.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to get started because I have a lot of questions for you because I find you and your organization just so interesting.
Thank you.
Yeah. So you are the CEO of Amani Family Services.
Yes.
Can you tell us what the mission of Amani is and how long the organization has been in existence?
Yes, our mission is to partner with immigrant and refugee families and the community to promote safety, encourage personal growth, and foster spirit of belonging. And we have been serving Fort Wayne, Allen County for the past 2 decades.
Wow. What is the origin of the name Amani?
Yes, so when we first started 2 decades ago, we started as a faith-based organization for about a year, transitioned into a nonprofit under the name of Crime Victim Care of Allen County. Complicated name, very difficult to decipher and understand what it was that we're actually doing. So in 2016, we had the opportunity with new leadership to rebrand. And through that process, we identify a new name for our organization, Amani, which means peace in Swahili and wishes and aspirations in Arabic. We just felt that the sentiment of the name was just better represented the work that we're doing and our mission.
What kind of programs does Amani offer?
Yes, so when we first started, our flagship program was Victim Care Program. We started serving victims of crime and domestic violence, and that was truly the focus. We're a very volunteer-based, grassroots organization that just grew and developed over time. And so we learned over the years that providing advocacy was one part of the services that we needed to provide, but also pairing it with wraparound services, casework, mental health counseling was very, very important. So we are known in the community for our clinical services that we provide to immigrants and refugees. But all along, we've also done a lot of community building and advocacy. So it was only fitting to adopt a brand new initiative in 2020 to really solidify our commitment in that area. So this initiative is known as Welcoming Fort Wayne. Quite recently, after about 2 years in the making, we were able to launch naturalization and legal assistance known as NALA. So these are the 3 priority areas and services that we provide.
One of the communities in which you provide services is our refugee community here in Fort Wayne. And I feel like that is a word that is used a lot, but people may not know exactly what that means. So in terms of the services that Amani provides, what does refugee mean?
Yes, so, to begin with, we provide services to immigrants, refugees, non-English speakers. And there are over 28,000 foreign-born individuals living in Allen County. We come here, really, the paths vary. We have international students, we have individuals who come here to pursue better opportunities. We have job seekers who are recruited by our great health systems and companies here locally. And we're also a refugee resettlement site. And we have been for a few decades now. And so our role working with refugees isn't bringing refugees here, which sometimes it's a common misconception about Amani. Catholic Charities is the refugee resettlement agency for Allen County, and they conduct the initial resettlement process. Amani steps in the 90 days after the refugees come in, and after the honeymoon phase is over a lot of times, and real issues emerge and real needs emerge, and we try to really partner with those newcomers to help them navigate the community. And so refugees are specifically vulnerable because of their journey and because of the reason they're coming here, seeking safety, escaping persecution. So, yeah.
That's an important distinction, so thank you for clarifying that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. How is Amani funded?
Yes, so we are trying to be as diversified in funding as possible.
You need to be in these times.
You need to be. So we do have some federal funding still, and as a matter of fact, our flagship program, Victim Care Program, is funded federally at the moment, anyhow. We also have great partnerships with our local foundations. We secure sponsorships for our fundraising events and engage individual donors, trying to get them excited about our mission and partner with us.
You mentioned the recent launch of the Naturalization and Legal Assistance Program. Could you share more about what that is?
Yes, as I mentioned to you, Allen County is home to many foreign-born individuals, and just giving myself as an example, I am a naturalized citizen, but prior to that, I was a green card holder. And once you have legal status of whatever kind, but you are not yet citizen, you may not have path to become one, you are always subject to various proceedings, documents that you have to file, adjustments in status, renewals, so on and so forth. Paperwork. And it's a very complicated process. The process is not designed to be intuitive or, customer friendly. It really, in a lot of ways, serves as a deterrent. So legal expertise is extremely important. And so for us, we have really advocated for immigration legal services to happen for Allen County. We've been at it for a long, long time, and finally realized that if we don't step into that space, we may not see this resource available. And so we took that on to serve immigrants and refugees, across the spectrum of status. If somebody has a path to legal status, to residency, we're able to serve them. We're also wanting to support the employers who are recruiting international talent, who also struggle navigating their status and documentation and renewal processes. We want to be there to help them. And also provide some cultural awareness training for employers to make sure that when we're bringing people here, we're also thinking about how we're going to retain them. How do we create an environment where people will thrive? How we create that glue that keeps people here. Yeah.
This is a question that could have a lot of different answers, but I'm curious if there's an average amount of time from first coming to the United States to being completely through the immigration process.
So this question could be answered in many, many different ways. Just like I mentioned, not everybody has path to citizenship.
Sure.
But if you do, and for example, you are a refugee, once you are residing in the United States for 5 years, you can embark on a process. That's just one of many examples and many paths. One thing that continues to be a challenge with the immigration system is the poor infrastructure that we have. So the backlog, the wait times that are just tremendous. So some of the processes or the length of the processes is truly impacted by the government's lack of ability to execute on their own processes, so to speak, in a timely manner.
How many languages do you estimate are spoken in Fort Wayne? And again, that's another probably hard question to give an estimate to, but I'll ask. And how many languages is Amani able to offer services in?
That's a great question. We keep an eye on a number of languages, and we kind of look at key partners in the community to gauge of what's happening. We do know that we live in a very global community. And we know that anytime there's something happening in a far away land in the world, there's going to be a ripple effect, and that issue is going to impact our local community. We see that through clients, new countries coming through our door. So one of the partner agencies that, organizations that we really keep an eye on is Fort Wayne Community Schools. So we know that currently there are over 70 different languages spoken in Fort Wayne Community Schools. We also know, tracking our own data of clients served, we know that last year, for example, we served clients who spoke 16 different languages. They came from 34 different countries. So again, that's truly world on our doorsteps.
It's really striking to think about that within Fort Wayne Community Schools, over 70 different languages spoken at home.
Yep.
Just remarkable.
Yeah, and language access continues to be a challenge.
Yes.
So, to answer the second part of your question about our ability to serve, our providers, 100% of our direct service providers are at least bilingual. Yet we need to rely on interpretation services heavily. So we seek out partner agencies to supplement for the languages that we are not able to provide on our staff. And language access becomes a big chunk of our budget. Nearly $70,000 a year we spend on language access.
You have mentioned that every immigrant or refugee has their own story. There's not one common narrative, but would you say that there are some common challenges that many face? And what are those challenges? Language is probably one.
Yeah, I think language is one, obviously, acculturation process. But if it comes to, personal experience, I think what we have all in common is the longing for a home. Even, if we come here because we're seeking better opportunities, we didn't have to leave. There's still that struggle, that grief that happens, that loss of friendships and family connections. For some of us, there is degrees of trauma that come with it. And, the quest, I think we're all on the same quest of finding belonging. I believe that we are at our best when we feel the sense of belonging. I think that's when, as community members, we take ownership, we take initiative, we feel like we are part of something greater, and we are able to step in, and use our voice and a personal agency to better the community in which we live. For myself, I often joke with my friends, and when coming to America, I so desperately wanted to kind of run away from that small village mentality that everybody knew everybody and everybody was in everybody's business, and that was so bothersome to me as a teenager and young adult. And upon coming here, I spent every waking moment rebuilding that village.
Rebuilding that community.
Rebuilding that community because it is so extremely important. So I think, the shared experiences are built around really reinventing yourself, building your life here.
I don't know if I've ever really thought about the grief that you mentioned. And it's one of those things, multiple things can be true at once. Someone can be so excited and optimistic and hopeful about their new life and also mourn what they leave behind. They exist together.
Yeah. Yes, those are not mutually exclusive experiences. And I think that's, another part that adds to the complexity of the immigrant experience, that you are holding these multiple realities simultaneously, and as you're trying to navigate acculturation and also making sure that you don't lose your cultural identity. Those are really tricky situations. We see a lot of that playing out for first generation youth. As Amani, through our clinical services, we spend a lot of time working with youth who kind of struggle really finding that third culture, that struggle to develop that healthy sense of identity, of being really grounded in their values and their cultural upbringing, but also finding a way to be successful here.
So you mentioned multiple realities, and you've had them as well within your own organization, Amani, because you worked in different roles there before you became the CEO. Yes. So how is being CEO different than what you did before?
I'm going to start with how is it the same?
Okay.
Because that's something that I have conversations with my staff about all the time. A lot of us come from collectivist culture, so the mentality is the team mentality. So as a team, we share a common mission. We each have a job to deliver on that mission, but we're all working towards the mission. So it's the same in that the mission hasn't changed. My scope of responsibilities has. It's different because of the scope of responsibilities. But even in that, it is very clear to me that I am wanting to do the best job that I possibly can with the job that was entrusted me. And so it's been a long way from working as a therapist to serving as CEO. But my training as a therapist is really based in systems thinking. The same kind of thinking and strategy I am able to take from a family setting to community setting to a yet larger setting when I think about navigating problems and solving the world's issues. So there are a lot of similarities. The main difference is in the gravity of the responsibility that tends to have just weigh on you, on your shoulders.
And maybe a few more emails?
A few more emails, probably.
That tends to go with the territory. You mentioned welcoming Fort Wayne, and the library is involved in that initiative as well.
Yes,
could you share what that is?
Yes, so I alluded to it earlier. We really needed to solidify our commitment to bridge building, advocacy, and community development. We feel like we've done this work all along. It all kinds of, it fits together when you start putting these smaller pieces. It's easy to see that as a therapist, I could not make a difference with the family or individual I was working with without addressing the system or the context, right? So we have always done work in terms of community development and advocacy, we've not always had a way to name it until 2020, where we formally launched the Welcoming Fort Wayne initiative. And so this gives us an opportunity to really focus on efforts that are community building, that are bridge building, that are, celebrating the cultural diversity of our community, focusing on the strengths. We started with looking into data, learning more. The multicultural community is very dynamic. It changes all the time. So we wanted to know, do we really know who are the people in our community? So we started off with a community study and a community survey to learn more. And from that point forward, we were able to convene a steering committee of leaders really across industries, put that information out front of them and say, this is what we know to be true today about our multicultural community and community. What are some challenges, barriers that we can problem solve and and find solutions to? And equally as importantly, what are the strengths that people bring? How can we build on those strengths? How can we capitalize on those strengths? So this has been an amazing process. And just like I mentioned to you, that's just one aspect of Welcoming Fort Wayne, doing that community development work. And we're not doing it alone. Library is part of it. So are many, many organizations. The list is so long, and that's just testimony to our community. Speaking about rebuilding your home away from home, I'm just so lucky that I have landed in Allen County. It's been a wonderful place for me. We are also, again, taking opportunities to engage in cultural celebrations. We observe Welcoming Week in September every year, and again, in many partnerships, we put together a number of events, celebrations. We are honoring individuals and organizations who do intentional work in that space through the Welcoming Fort Wayne Awards. And we are also offering cultural competency trainings and cultural IQ trainings to help people feel more equipped to step into multicultural settings, which that's every setting anymore.
Right. And I believe we posted some of those here at the library.
Yeah. So just feel more comfortable, better prepared. So really that's the, I would say, like broad strokes of what Welcoming Fort Wayne Initiative is about.
So speaking of being welcoming, what is Fort Wayne doing really well in terms of being welcoming, and where are the growth areas?
Yes, this past week, one of the important activities that we took on as part of Welcoming Fort Wayne Initiative was looking into becoming certified as a welcoming community. And so that's been a year-long process, and last week we had auditors from the national organization Welcoming America interviewing over 40 community leaders to collect evidence so that they can tell us how well we're doing. Are we welcoming? What are some of the growth areas? To me, just the sheer fact that over 40 community leaders showed up for these interviews was just already extremely overwhelming and moving. So I think that itself is a testament to this community has amazing appetite to really do better. And our leaders want to roll up their sleeves and do whatever is necessary to make sure that this is a place of belonging. It's a cliche anymore. We say we want this community to be one where everybody can work, worship, and play, right? Such a surface statement, but such a profound statement. If you think about the work that it really entails to make that a reality, it takes everybody. It takes the private sector, it takes the public sector, it takes the nonprofits to come together and say, is this what we want to be, who we want to be as a community? What are we willing to do? Through that process, I said on a few of these interviews, and something that I was reminded of that I kind of maybe forgotten was that this city was built on community of faith. So we have churches on every corner.
And city of churches.
Yes, city of churches. And these churches have always made very intentional effort about supporting the next wave of immigrants that come in to the United States. So in that, we have welcoming in our DNA, so to speak. But things change, times change, and I think it starts with a good intention, but it needs to continue through intentional work. So I think, yes, there's a room to grow, but I am very optimistic we'll receive the audit results soon, and hopefully we'll have an opportunity to celebrate.
How do our immigrant and refugee communities contribute to our local economy and our cultural landscape?
Oh, goodness.
It's a big question.
It's a big question, but so there's the data that we can lean onto and say, hey, we have 1,300 entrepreneurs. Those are individuals who are extremely industrious and who are, in so many ways building the economic growth of our community. We have over 28,000 foreign-born who are working and contributing in tax revenue. Fort Wayne, Allen County is so proud to say that we are, depending on when you ask, either one of the fastest growing metros or the fastest growing metro in Great Lake region. And of course, a big reason for that is immigrants and refugees who come to this community. So it's not just domestic, population growth. And we are so lucky when you look at the really low-hanging fruit, easy pickings. If you are a foodie, look at all the different restaurants you can go to in Fort Wayne, Indiana. It's incredible. When we have guests visiting here, they're many times astonished of what's available to us. Think about all the cultural celebration and the festivals that happen over the summer downtown Fort Wayne. Those are opportunities for people to really be able to experience different parts of the world without having to travel. Not everybody is able to travel.
Right.
But this kind of exposure is just incredible. So depending who you talk to, some are more interested in econ development, and we can then pull all the statistics and say, look at the dollars, look at the impact, look at the potential. The other side of it, just like you said, is the cultural impact and being able to learn and understand that there are different cultures and there's a world outside of Fort Wayne, Allen County is important. It shapes, our perception of who we are in relation to, but also helps us learn about the world a little bit more.
I agree, and I would say especially for children who are having that global experience within their classrooms in Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Yes, I think that is pretty awesome. I love, again, I love diversity. I value diversity. I seek it out, and I definitely seek it out for my children. So it's something that, again, we can take advantage of with very little investment on our part.
And you make a really good point. Not everybody has the time or the resources to travel, but there is such a wonderful opportunity here in Fort Wayne to have those cultural international experiences just by talking to your neighbor, just by talking to your colleague,
Yes.
just by supporting a local restaurant or a local store or going to a festival.
Absolutely.
It makes Fort Wayne seem bigger than it really is in all the best ways.
I think so. And something I often say for those who might be a little bit more skeptical about different experiences, I often say, diversity is such a just wonderful, liberating experience, because when you see that there are different ways of doing the same thing, it really makes you feel more empowered. We oftentimes we just get stuck in one way of thinking. What diversity of thought, cultural diversity shows us is that there are many different ways of getting the same thing done. And to me, it's pretty liberating.
Yeah, and then the end product is usually better for it because you have the diversity of experiences and viewpoints.
Yeah.
Just makes for a stronger
Yes,
end.
I'm biased, of course, but yeah.
Ewelina, I'd like to talk a bit about your personal story.
Oh boy.
What was your very first job, and are there lessons that you learned there that you use to this day?
So I'll break it down into 2 lives.
Okay.
Before coming to the United States, I was working for a company in a very interesting time for Poland historically. So we were coming out of the communist regime and exploring free market, and so there was this really big, swift movement to privatize. So everything that was owned by the government, which was everything, now started to become a private sector, right? The private sector was being formed. And so I had the opportunity to work for a company that used to be owned by government and kind of started to transition into that private sector, and all the growing pains and the imperfections and the failures. I was able to see that firsthand. That was absolutely incredible experience. It taught me a lot about process, sticking with process, believing in process, and not being discouraged. Now coming to the United States was kind of like a new beginning. So in Poland, I was able to graduate college, and I mentioned to you, I at the same time as I was in school, I was working, and coming here, I didn't speak English, I didn't drive a car, my degree didn't transfer. It was like being a child. And so I've had some really humbling experiences working in a service industry, working, as a front desk, a receptionist in a hotel, just really having different professional experiences that honestly I would not trade for the world. I think they were so very important. And
Character building.
Yes, character building. Grit is something that definitely came from those experiences. I'm very, very grateful for them. I wouldn't change it.
I read, correct me if I'm wrong, that your first visit to Fort Wayne was representing your home country of Poland as a singer and a performer during the Three Rivers Festival.
Yes.
Can you take us back to that first visit in Fort Wayne? And do you have, I'm sure you do, memories from that visit? And looking back, would you be surprised that Fort Wayne is now your home for decades?
Yes. So the first time my dance group came to the United States was, I believe, in '92. At that, it was even before we came back for Three Rivers Festival. It was in the fall. I believe the mayor at the time was Mayor Richards, Graham Richards, maybe. So I remember very vividly there was a celebration organized up front of the Fort Wayne Museum of Arts, the Performing Arts Center in that plaza, where there was a table and there was a big cake, and there were no people, nobody. There was our group, some of the city representatives, and that was it. And so I remember standing there with my friends. We're looking around, and it was kind of like eerie and unnerving. So this is downtown Fort Wayne, and there's nobody. There are no people on the streets. There's nothing happening.
Hard to picture knowing the Fort Wayne of today. Wow.
Yeah, it was very almost like scary to us. Like, what is going to happen? Where are all the people? What happened? Because as you can well imagine, living in any European country, life happens downtown.
The Civic Square.
Yes, it's a constant hustle and bustle. And there we were, just standing there and looking for, I don't know, apocalypse or something to happen, because it was just absolutely empty. It was fall time, so there was kind of like the sound of the wind, and it was just really terrifying. So no, standing there at the time, never ever did I desire to come back and be part of this community, because it just didn't feel like a place I would want to be.
Not the best first impression.
No.
But there was a chance to redeem ourselves, it sounds like. Yeah.
Yes, I think, honestly, my dance group had the opportunity to come back, and they do till today. Actually, I know maybe not this year, but maybe the next year they'll come back and perform. We not only would perform here in Fort Wayne, but also Honeywell Theater in Wabash and kind of surrounding areas. So that relationship, that exchange still continues, and it's kind of cool. But so even coming back over time, we could definitely see some change, but it really wasn't until I came here, and we have worked through, as a community, we have worked through this major pushback that was given to Burmese refugees at the time, where we had, signs, no Burmese in laundromat, and I think really difficult time for our community. Since then, there has been a lot of effort to really reinvent us, reinvent who we are as a community. And it was just a really easy decision for me to jump into a role in whatever capacity to be a part of that change, to make that happen. Once I resolved with myself that, hey, this is where I'm going to live, probably for the rest of my life, let's take care of this place. Let's make it so that I feel proud of it. And so through different volunteering opportunities, before even I was able to have a job, or, I went back to college and to pursue a degree, really getting involved in any way I possibly could, serving on board of directors for sister cities, whatever the opportunity was, to just kind of work towards that change, because there was a definite momentum and the desire to be different from, some of those unpleasant experiences.
How does your own immigrant story and experience shape the work you do with and for Amani?
Yes, I'm very grateful to be able to do this work. And, you know, we've talked about me serving in different capacities over the years. And I feel that one of the reasons why I feel effective in my role is that shared experience that I had, the way that I can relate to the people that we serve. It's really, really important to me. Now, moving into the CEO role, you may relate to that. It's far from the trenches. So you have to find your way back to the trenches.
Absolutely.
So you still continue to understand really what happens as we're busy running around trying to, get grants and funding to
Going to meetings.
going to meetings, supporting all the community initiatives. So it's really important. But it definitely gave me a lot of confidence in shaping our helping philosophy and defending helping philosophy. So our helping philosophy is a leg up, not a handout. It's strength-based. I know that in learning English language, it's always been clear to me that words like immigrants and refugees are words that indicate deficit. They don't have a positive connotation in the way we use these words. And so the reality is that people who come here are extremely resilient. They have many strengths that they bring in. So when we engage with people is to really give them that leg up. What we're lacking as immigrants is cultural maps. We're not lacking character. We may not be lacking skills. We're just needing to figure out what is this new lay of the land, how do we fit in, and how can we use our strengths. So it's very important to me, something that I work with my providers on as we have new people coming in, to remember that our client is the expert in the room. We're a toolbox, we're a map, and they bring all kinds of strengths. Before we identify what the problem areas are, do we have a strong understanding of what we're going to build on? Because you can't build on deficit, you have to find the strengths. And so, again, because of my own experience, because of my own journey, I have confidence in saying this is how we need to work with the people we serve, not with compassion, but not pity. Strength-based, not deficit-based.
Working with people, not for people
correct.
necessarily.
Yes. Yeah.
So on Open Book with Susan Baier, we have a final segment, and we call it the tail end with Toonces. So I will explain. Toonces is my very spoiled cat, and he doesn't come to the studio with me. He's actually probably hiding under the bed at home right now, but he did want me to ask you a question. For being a cat, he's a very big thinker and has lots of really good questions.
Clearly.
Yes. So Toonces and I were discussing this, and a favorite quote of mine is from Mother Teresa. And the quote is, "If you can't feed 100 people, feed just one." And that is really powerful to me because I think it speaks to the power of one-to-one. We talk about big system changes that need to happen, and they can be very daunting and very intimidating. Yeah. But there's so much power in one everyday person helping another person. So all that being said, how can the everyday person in Allen County, Indiana, help and support the spirit of Amani and being welcoming to their neighbors?
That's a wonderful question. And your cat is amazing.
He is.
Sounds just amazing. It's really simple. It's all about spirit of curiosity. If we can stop, give ourselves a chance to think before we pass judgment and ask a question instead, that will make a world of difference, really. It's very hard to do. because as humans we are predisposed to judge the environment. It's kind of a survival mechanism for us. But if we can just truly just stop and just ask us a question before we jump into conclusions, the answers that follow, the conversations that ensue as a result are those building blocks for relationships. And once you have a relationship with somebody, it's a lot, in that spirit of really sister cities idea and President Eisenhower's philosophy, about citizen diplomacy. When people get to know each other, it's very hard to become enemies, right? You make friends, and your world changes as a result. So I think that one small thing is truly just being curious and asking a question before deciding how we're going to feel about something.
I've heard it described as be curious, not furious.
Yeah.
I think it's a good mantra to live by.
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming today to the show.
Thank
I
you.
really appreciate it. I've learned a lot. I'm, again, such an admirer of you and your work, and thank you for everything that you're doing for all of Allen County.
You're very kind. Thank you. Thank you for your time, and thank you for having me.
And thank you for watching Open Book with Susan Baier. Until next time, keep turning those pages.